Welcome to Skytech-Lens. The collapse of a $350 billion investment deal between the United States and South Korea sent shockwaves through the global economy. Just months earlier, the agreement was celebrated as a pillar of President Trump's second-term plan to revive American manufacturing, with Korean giants like Hyundai and Samsung set to build advanced factories in the U.S. In return, the U.S. agreed to cap tariffs on Korean goods, offering rare stability in a turbulent trade climate. But beneath the surface, Korean officials were anxious. Committing nearly half their GDP abroad was a massive risk, especially without a currency swap safety net from the U.S. Federal Reserve. The American response to these concerns was lukewarm, hinting at a fragile foundation. The deal's sudden collapse wasn't due to financial disputes, but a single incendiary event that turned partnership into humiliation. What was once hailed as a new model for international cooperation quickly unraveled, exposing deep mistrust. No funds were ever transferred. The grand announcement became a symbol of failed diplomacy. The fallout is only beginning, reverberating from Washington to Seoul and beyond. The promise of jobs and revitalized towns has vanished overnight. The world is left questioning America's reliability as a partner. The shockwaves are just starting to be felt. The deal's undoing began not in a boardroom, but on a Georgia construction site. In September 2025, federal agents raided a Hyundai LG battery plant, detaining over 300 South Korean engineers on alleged visa issues, despite their legal status. The images of handcuffed professionals, broadcast in Korea, sparked outrage and protests outside the U.S. Embassy in Seoul. The Korean government, under intense public pressure, suspended all investment talks, citing a need to restore trust. The raid shattered the goodwill the deal was built on, turning economic cooperation into a matter of national dignity. The U.S. response only worsened matters. While diplomats expressed regret, President Trump's social media post implied Korean workers were expendable. This confirmed Korean fears. They were not true partners, but temporary tools. The deal was effectively dead, with no path to recovery. The incident became a diplomatic disaster, erasing months of progress. Korean companies withdrew, and the partnership dissolved overnight. The message trust, once broken, is nearly impossible to restore. The fallout was more than emotional. It was a calculated retreat. The Georgia raid exposed the political risks of investing in the U.S. under the Trump administration. Without a currency swap agreement, Korea faced potential economic instability alone. The government's decision to withdraw was framed as protecting national sovereignty. Korean firms halted U.S. expansion, viewing America as a risky, unpredictable market. The collapse hit American workers and businesses hard. Promised jobs and contracts evaporated overnight. Local companies, like a Tennessee logistics firm, lost millions in projected revenue. Across the supply chain, hope turned to uncertainty. The lesson was clear: stability and respect matter as much as market size. America's belief in its economic gravity was proven wrong. Even close allies have limits. When trust is lost, capital moves elsewhere. The South Korean deal's collapse was part of a larger pattern: America's self-inflicted isolation. The administration's tariffs and unpredictable policies drove foreign investment away. FDI inflows dropped 12% in early 2025. Tariffs meant to protect U.S. industries backfired, raising prices and fueling crime, like a surge in copper theft. Major projects such as the Revolution wind farm were abruptly canceled, costing thousands of jobs and deterring future investment. Inflation climbed to 4.6%, and business confidence plummeted. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce warned that policy volatility had become a structural risk. The world watched as America's attempts to assert strength only deepened its isolation. Foreign partners began to look elsewhere for stability. America First was becoming America alone. The consequences were felt across every sector. As the U.S. stumbled, Canada quietly surged ahead. Under Prime Minister Mark Carney, Canada positioned itself as North America's stable, reliable alternative. While Washington waged trade wars, Ottawa welcomed investment, boosting FDI by 9% in 2025. Canada invested in clean energy and critical minerals, streamlining approvals for major projects. Trade agreements like CETA and CPTPP gave Canadian businesses access to Europe and Asia, insulating them from U.S. volatility. Inflation settled at a manageable 2.1%, and Canada even excluded U.S. firms from major defense contracts. Canada's methodical approach built new economic and strategic alliances. The world took notice. In a turbulent era, stability is the ultimate advantage. Canada's quiet ascent is a lesson in the power of predictability. Europe, too, began to hedge against American unpredictability. A $600 billion US-EU investment plan stalled as European leaders balked at unclear rules and sudden policy shifts. US tariffs on EU goods, especially cars and pharmaceuticals, hit export-driven economies hard. Irish firms rerouted exports through Canada, leveraging CETA to bypass US tariffs. Ireland and Canada formalized deeper economic ties, with trade nearly doubling since 2017. Over 60% of Irish SMEs now see Canada as a safer export market than the US-Europe invested in Canada's critical minerals sector, securing supply chains and reducing reliance on both the US and China. Projects like the Momberg molybdenum mine in Greenland, backed by the EU, will supply a quarter of Europe's needs. Businesses and governments are voting for stability. The transatlantic economic landscape is being redrawn. America's unpredictability is driving its partners elsewhere. For many Americans, the collapse of the Korean deal isn't just a distant headline, it's a local crisis. Promised jobs in Georgia and Tennessee disappeared, leaving families and small businesses in limbo. Local suppliers, diners and realtors lost growth opportunities overnight. Tariffs raised costs for farmers and manufacturers, squeezing already thin margins. Retaliatory tariffs and higher import prices hit the heartland hardest. A government shutdown delayed jobs data and caused travel disruptions, compounding uncertainty. While the wealthy worry about tax rules, working families face rising prices and job insecurity. Policy instability is crushing local economies and entrepreneurial spirit. The ripple effects are being felt in every corner of the country. The US and Canada, once closely linked, are now on diverging economic paths. America faces stagnation, high inflation, and eroding trust, while Canada enjoys steady growth and global partnerships. US inflation remains high, and tariffs are projected to cut GDP growth by 0.5%. Business confidence is low and foreign capital is fleeing. Canada's diversified trade and stable policies are attracting investment and fueling expansion. The Port of Churchill is being revived as a strategic export hub. International partners are choosing Canada for major contracts and resource projects. Mexico and Canada are building new economic corridors. Bypassing the US agricultural trade is booming between Canada and Mexico. The world is building new networks that leave America behind. The collapse of the US-South Korea deal is a cautionary tale about the true currency of global power trust. In today's world, reliability and respect matter more than market size or military might. The Trump administration's belief in economic dominance and transactional deals proved dangerously flawed. Even close allies have limits. When trust is broken, capital and partnerships vanish. Canada and Europe are thriving by honoring agreements and fostering stability. They're attracting investment and building resilient economies for the future. America's strategy of unpredictability has led to isolation and lost opportunities. The real cost is measured in lost jobs, vanished investments, and strained alliances. The world is moving on, forging new partnerships and networks. Trust is hard to earn, easy to lose, and essential for prosperity. Rebuilding it will be America's greatest challenge ahead. Thanks for watching. Subscribe the channel for more updates.